Now, who of us has not been sent away or heard someone say, sorry, I don't want you, I don't really need you, there's no room for you here? We walk away, hopefully with some degree of dignity, and many of us keep going, trying again and again, taking umpteen or 100,000 chances until we finally find a way that meets our need. As the Christmas story goes, and as Dr. Estes, Dr. Pincola Estes, tells us in her book, Untie the Strong Woman, the Holy Family, Mary and Joseph and Jesus in the womb, along with a mass migration of tribal groups, tried to find shelter at an inn. All people were ordered by King Augustus to return to their birth villages to be taxed. All the travelers dearly hoped that when they were exhausted, they would find shelter of even the most rudimentary sort to rest. Mother Mary was 9 months pregnant, bumping over miles of rough terrain, and finally ready to give birth to Jesus. But there was no room at any hostel, at any inn, where Mary and her husband Joseph begged for shelter. Some say they were turned away because they weren't rich and as well off as some other people, and thus couldn't afford to pay the high fees. And some say they were turned away because of their religious beliefs, and perhaps they were rejected on both these counts. The underlying message of this ancient story: being rejected, looked down upon, being told there is no place for you here, is still too often very real for many people in our time, in our culture, Dr. Estes says. Many of us, in fact, feel at least somewhat alienated from our mainstream culture and from societal rules that can often, bewilder our psyches. And those can take a different form in everyone. Now, I'm going to sing a song. How did you know this was coming? And you may recognize the song. And I'd like to try, as very well as I can, to sing a line, or perhaps a part of a line of the song. And after I sing it, I want you to sing it after me. Okay? Now, if you know the song, you're going to feel a bit anxious and you're going to want to go to the next line at the same time I am. But I ask you to try and have patience so that there's some kind of give and take going on. And I'd like you to think of the lines of this song and perhaps how they might relate to feeling alienated and on some deep level dissatisfied with the state of one's existence, perhaps because of too little spirituality or too little true love, or too little generosity, or on the other hand, perhaps because of too much TV, too much crime, too much materialism, or too much anxiety and hunger, that never seems to be fulfilled. So here we go with the song. Repeat after me. There's a lady who's sure all that glitters is gold, and she's buying a stairway to heaven. When she gets there, she knows if the stores are all closed, with a word she can get what she came for. Ooh, and she's buying a stairway to heaven. There's a sign on the wall, but she wants to be sure. 'Cause sometimes words have two meanings. In a tree by the brook, there's a songbird who sings. Sometimes all of our thoughts are misgiven. Ooh, it makes me wonder. Ooh, it really makes me wonder. There's a feeling I get when I look to the west. And my spirit is crying for leaving. And a new day will dawn for those who stand long. And the forest will echo with laughter. If there's a bustle in your hedgerow, don't be alarmed now. It's just a sprinkling for the May Queen. Yes, there are two paths you can go by, but in the long run, there's still time to change the road you're on. And as we wind on down the road, our shadows taller than us all, there walks a lady we all know, who shines white light and wants to show how everything still turns to gold. And if you listen very hard, the tune will come to you at last. When all is one and one is all, to be a rock and not to roll. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Oh, oh, oh. And she's buying a stairway to heaven. Not coincidentally, at this time of year in particular, some of us start to think about increasing our neighborly actions in the world. Actions, Pinkola Estes says, are of a hospitable nature, meaning we make welcoming gestures for and to love. Come on in, Jesus, Joseph, and Mary. In other words, we would like to respond to difficult situations and people with generosity and compassion, understanding, instead of the opposite. Being cheap with our generosity, our hearts, Scrooge-like. There is a ritual called La Posada, and it means making accommodation. It actually means making one's own heart into the inn that Mary and Joseph should have gotten into. Making your heart into the inn, or place of shelter for the light of the world to be born. I'll tell you more about this ritual in a minute. But it's truly amazing to me that people put themselves through this ritual to remind them of the depths of their hearts and of the light that they are capable of giving off as human beings. La Posada is a way of seeing with one's soul, one's psyche, rather than one's ego. Rather than thinking in the socially acceptable way, the proud way, the cool way, the personally defensive way, and instead seeing with our hearts. If we were to see with the eye of our hearts more often in our lives, Pinkola Estes points out that we would truly flourish at cleansing our fed-up minds and our half-poisoned bodies, our very weary souls and demoralized spirits, making them into vivacious and welcoming refuges again. Now, my hair is a little messy, but that's okay because I'm not thinking with my ego today. There are 9 nights to the La Posada ritual. Beforehand, certain church members, or whomever they may be, dress up and play the role of the Holy Family. And 9 different families play the role of the innkeepers. So we have the Holy Family and the innkeepers. It is arranged at 8 pre-chosen homes. There are 9 pre-chosen homes. But at the first 8, when the Holy Family come to their doors and ask for shelter, they will be sent away until the 9th home, where those innkeepers will finally welcome them out of the cold. The people inside the homes, who are supposed to represent the innkeepers, say things like, "No, no, no, go away. There's no room here for the likes of you." They really embellish some of them. Some answer sadly, "We have no vacancy. We're full. Sorry, I have no room for you." Some act very blunt and rude. "No, go away. Don't let me catch you here again." At some homes, love expresses itself early. One time during one of these rituals, a man had had way too much to drink before the ritual. And after his wife said, "No, sorry, there's no room here," he said, "What the hell are you talking about? We have no room. We've got a cot, a lounger, a floor. Come in, one and all." And his nephew was like elbowing him and saying, "No, uncle, we're supposed to say no." Another little boy with Down syndrome, who had rehearsed for a week to say no, did say no at first. "No, I don't think so. No room, well." His mom then patted him and pulled him away from the door when the posada people turned to fade into the night once again. But the young man suddenly ran back to the porch stoop in the snow, crying out from his heart, "No, come back. You can have my bed." Some might say this young man was slow and not very bright because he blurted out the wrong thing. But in fact, this young soul was more radiant and more wholly connected to his brain and his heart than most of us are. But the posada players had to continue being rejected nonetheless because they wanted to stir up the emotions and the thinking pattern that goes along with actually being rejected. That's part of the process of this ritual. Until finally their search ends and they find the home that will receive them with open arms. A special recliner for Mary and some fiery tequila for the anxious and rather awkward husband, Joseph. And afterwards there's a big party and much celebrating and jubilation. Now, Estes urges us to make special places in our actual lives for love to literally be born into our world. At work, at home, while we are commuting, while we're shopping, while we're indoors, and while we are out and about. And that is different for all of us too. We have our own special ways of giving good and our own gifts and capacities. Some people like myself who can still unfortunately be rather self-absorbed and neurotic may not find oneself able to give or stretch quite as far as others in terms of open arms, but a little can go a long way, I hope. And not just once a year, Estes urges, but this should rather be a daily practice of remembering to grant first place to love without barriers. We ourselves have a deep longing to be continually united with love, and so does everyone else. So have mercy and watch what takes place when you do so. Okay, Roberta? Are you going to give this a go? Now, sometimes we have an aversion to people who keep trying in all their desperation to be somebody and fit in somehow to a niche somehow. And, you know, we don't really want to give our love to these people. It's not as easy because they kind of turn us off because they're always trying to have a true committed relationship. They try to find the right line of work, try to make money, to be an artist, to be a good person, to keep doing a television show that never really impresses enough to be played at a normal time of day. But it's often this beautiful determination of the soul that tries to keep going, Estes reminds us. And I'm sure we see parts of these other people in ourselves, and that's why we have an aversion to them. We all have this beautiful, unstoppable persistence. No matter what doors are closed to us in love, in our family, in our careers, our marriages, our art, our financial situations, to keep going and to just get up, back up on that biblical donkey. Clarissa Pinkola often refers to our society as the overculture. I love this word. We are overcultured. We try to be impressive and primmed up and prissied and successified and have all the right talk and walk in whatever way that registers in our lifestyles. Not all of us have fancy hairdos and business suits, but many of us have fairly high expectations of ourselves and other people. And there are many different ways that we try to control situations and set our futures, plan our futures just so. We are walking personas. We really are. Our holy impulse to just be ourselves and do what feels right and natural and to be in the moment is somehow pushed down into last place. Ridiculed, turned away, ignored, scorned, covered over. La Posada is a ritual that asserts, I will find a way through. There will be a place, a person, a shelter, and I will keep going. No matter who tries to exile the genuinely holy, no matter who tries to exile love, states Estes, it won't work for long because it's seated innately in us, in our spirits, our souls, our bodies. We always have radiant light, which may be hidden, but nonetheless it's always present and waiting to be illuminated, ignited. Pinkola Estes and others engage in this ritual, La Posada, to transform the overculture's cold shoulder toward the sacred, back into warm, open-armed welcome again. Dr. Estes says, like a child's enthusiastic waving or open-armed embrace. Now, what is our cold shoulder towards the sacred? Well, I don't know, maybe it's, for example, we don't allow a somewhat non-intrusive drunk person to sit in a coffee shop or a library when they are falling asleep or basically minding their own mildly blabbering business anyways. You wouldn't throw, a young cool guy that's moderately showing off to his friends out of that coffee shop, or a student who's studying hard for her exams nodding off at a desk at a library. Another example is making fun of a woman's or a man's choice of eccentric clothing or personal hairstyle repeatedly in our world, in the media, worn out on days and evenings with a lot of decisions to make, as most of us have a lot of decisions to make. This is another example of the overculture's cold shoulder towards something new, something different, something perhaps not acceptable. Not allowing someone comfort or giving them allowance and fair treatment in the same way you dole it out for others, because you don't agree with that person's looks, their social ineptness, their finances, their religious views, past decisions, current decisions, or lifestyle, or on the other hand, because you envy them somehow. These are examples of the overculture and its cold shoulder. And we often partake in that overculture. Estes gives us a kind of prayer. She says, "Creator, impregnate me, everyday present and everyday future tense. Impregnate me with the child of love." This prayer, this summoning of the Creator, this particular request to impregnate, might even make men and women, even infertile ones, feel like they are pregnant. Listen to that word, pregnant. We all would like to be pregnant with potential, pregnant with kindness, with joy, with feelings, and wonderful anticipation, pregnant with love, a child of love. So ask this of the universe, of the Creator. Impregnate me with the child of love. And just feel yourself get fatter. That really good kind of fatter, chubby, plump. It's growing a kind body. It's a growing of a kind body and a gentle mind of love that will become and then must be born daily. There is this fear in society that loving the holy is somehow dangerous or deluded, that loving too much, having too much passion, or in fact being too lovable might make one sick. Dogs are only allowed to give love like that. And even then, some of us are like, calm down, buddy. Pasada means to reject the overculture that harps about how unrealistic it is to teach love without limits. We're so caught up in teaching boundaries now, which can be very healthy, but we forget that teaching love is also extremely and equally important to the welfare of our present and our futures. Stop once in a while, Estes urges. Just stop and examine where in life we get all defensive and sharp around the edges, acting as if we're going to be impoverished if we dare to give away what we carry in endless abundance innately, she says, which is fully lit love.
Christmas time is coming. What a wonderful time of year. Sleigh bells ring.